This question of equal time and the requirement for media to give equal time. This controversy came to a head last night on the Colbert Show on CBS, where Stephen Colbert said that CBS told him that if he wanted to interview a certain politician on the show, he would have to interview, give equal time to all of his competitors. And so the legal staff, according to Colbert, told him, don't do it because you would trigger that equal time requirement. Late night talk shows and radio talk shows, for example, have generally been thought to be exempt from this rule of equal time, which does not apply to news coverage. Scott Libin is a faculty member at the University of Minnesota. He was a former TV news director. He was my news director at Channel 4 back when I was doing the Good Question, Scott, when people were emailing asking us about the equal time law and the equal time requirement for the FCC. So it's good to have you on and visit with you tonight.
Hey, it's good to talk to you, Jason. And you're right. People have been talking about this for a long time, and things have changed, both laws, regulations, and their interpretation and execution by the FCC. And that's really, I think, what prompts this latest controversy.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. The fact that the interpretation has changed, and we've seen an FCC commissioner willing to use sort of the threat of federal action. And that has, especially CBS, we have seen time and time again, CBS very sensitive to this threat from the Trump White House appointee at the FCC. So let's start with what is the equal time rule? What does the law require?
Right. So equal time or equal opportunities, which is the way the FCC likes to refer to it, opportunities with a plural, goes back almost 100 years to the Communications Act of 1934. And for its first couple of decades, it required that any broadcast station federally licensed by the FCC give equal opportunities to all candidates for access to the airwaves. Now, this was back when the airwaves were the only way to get word out, other than, let's say, the newspaper, right? In 1959, the FCC said, you know what, we're not going to apply this to newscasts, bona fide newscasts, but entertainment programs, and that would include talk shows like this one, still were required to provide equal time or something comparable until 2006. And that's when The Tonight Show, then hosted by Jay Leno, got an exception. And the FCC decided that, you know what, some of these entertainment programs, though that's fundamentally what they are, actually deserve an exception too. And that The Tonight Show with Jay Leno qualified for the equal opportunities exemption as a bona fide news interview. Right. And since then, programs like that, daytime and late night talk shows like yours, have been able to assume that they weren't going to be governed by this federal regulation until last month, when Brendan Carr, who's the new chairman of the FCC, who is not cut from the same mold as certain, most previous chairmen who've been diplomatic and delicate in their approach. This guy is, he's made some changes. And he said, you know what? We don't think programs like that deserve an exemption, especially, and this is the wording, a program, I'm quoting now, that is motivated by partisan purposes. That would not be entitled to an exemption under long-standing FCC precedent. So obviously, partisan purposes would be a somewhat subjective judgment, right?
Yeah. Scott Libin is with us from the University of Minnesota. So when equal time or equal opportunity is required, does the FCC get into specifics about, like, all right, if you interview a Republican during a primary process, do you have to give equal opportunity to all of the other Republicans who are running and all of the other Democrats who are running? Or is it just like within, and let me know if I'm over your skis here on some of this stuff.
That's where you went. Yeah, I don't know, and I'm not sure that that's ever been fully tested with respect to a primary field that might include multiple candidates.
Yeah, like right now, if I have a Republican candidate for governor on, do I got to open up 10 minutes of time to every single, all 10 people on the ballot or something? Maybe I do.
Well, are your purposes partisan, Jason? I think that's.
I mean,
that's
ask
key,
if
right?
you want to ask the Twitter followers or the texters. I suppose so. Like, I don't know.
I know. So here's what the FCC is now saying. Well, just check with us. We encourage the broadcast.
We're here to help. We're the FCC.
Exactly. We're here from the government. So check in and ask us if this qualifies or not. That obviously is fraught with some complications. Sure. I don't know how often you call the FCC.
They do not take my calls generally. I think Elon Musk still has the Doge auto response where I just get a poop emoji sent back to my email. Yeah.
Right. So, but this is an interesting case, and it'll be tested, and I'm sure it'll be challenged. Last night's bit by Stephen Colbert was a really entertaining example of just raging short-timer syndrome, wasn't it? I mean, his show's going off the air in a couple of months, and he's going out in a blaze of glory. But it is worth mentioning that interview with James Tallarico, the Texas Senate candidate, did play in full on YouTube, because YouTube, as a streaming service, is not subject to the same restrictions that federally licensed broadcasters like WCCO and CBS's affiliates and owned properties would be.
So you can do it whatever you want there. Before I let you go, Scott, I do want your opinion on whether the equal time rule in and of itself does achieve its goal. Which the goal, I think, most people listening to this are like, what's the big deal? Of course you want to give equal time to different viewpoints, different positions. This sounds so good. But it was conservative talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh who fought to get this exemption, because sort of the theory was that the audience is smart enough to sort of figure out what's going on, and they can find this information in so many different places, but it limits your ability to put on an entertaining product or even an informative product if you have to give a half hour, for example, to everybody who's running for office.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be confused with what was once known as the fairness doctrine. That is gone, right? That went away decades ago. That used to require that even newscasts, somehow measure and balance the amount of time that they were giving on issues, not just to candidates. I'm a little surprised at how seldom we hear challenges based on the equal opportunities or equal time doctrine. Yeah. It happened, as you may know, when I think the last high-profile case was when Kamala Harris appeared on Saturday Night Live. And NBC ended up giving the Trump campaign comparable time, but not on that show. Couldn't wait because it was right before the election. And I think it ended up in a spot in an auto race. So it was like
it's like the Indy 500 or Daytona 500 or something. Yeah. It's super interesting. I have, obviously, as someone who hosts my own show, I don't want the government to tell me who I should have on the show or who I shouldn't. But I do understand sort of the theory of the public interest here. I don't know. It's tricky. It's a tricky one.
Well, and I will say, there are a lot more options for people to get information, entertainment, and news. But there is still something about having an actual broadcast license that has value. And it's not to be dismissed lightly. So the rules are a little bit different. It can cut both ways.
Yeah, we get to use the public airwaves, and there's a little trade-off there for sure. Scott Libin for the University of Minnesota. Always appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Jason.